This is the podcast. We got to talk about UFC 278, Usman versus Edwards, number 2. Craziest ending. I mean, insane ending. Probably one of the craziest endings I've ever seen in an MMA fight. A fight that dominated by Usman, a minute away from him clearly about to win a decision, defend his title yet again. And Leon Edwards lands unbelievable head kick. I mean, just kicks Usman's head right off his shoulders. Puts him to sleep instantly. Fight's called. There's a few things I want to talk about that happened in this fight that were very interesting. A very key thing that happened that I don't think a lot of people are talking about besides me. But let's just talk about how the fight played out. Usman, it kind of started really similar to, if you've seen the first Usman Edwards fight, it's kind of really similar to that. I don't know if people remember, but Edwards, Usman has a really hard time taking Edwards down in the first fight. Like, he really does. He doesn't take him down right away, and it takes basically breaking him down and making him defend a lot of things for him to finally get him down. And that's exactly what happens in this fight. And exactly how I kind of thought it would play out is that Edwards is a good fighter, but he's not to me the strongest guy at welterweight. He's not a big welterweight, not a strong welterweight. He doesn't have elite power. He's a technical guy, but he kind of needs to be like a front runner kind of. He needs to be having success to continue. He's not like kind of guy like pulls it out. It's just not that guy, at least not until after this fight. But Usman just kind of shoots for takedown, and Edwards doing very good with it. But he did have the same success when they fought the first time. Then Edwards, and if you look at Edwards' fighting style after the Usman fight, which it had improved, wasn't the most notable names, but it had improved. He had started getting his own takedowns. He had started being kind of effective on like the clinch and takedowns, and he as a grappler, he was a lot more threatening as a grappler. And he gets Usman down. He surprises Usman. He gets down and gets him down in a full mount. No, he isn't able to do much, but he gets to the back, and Usman just kind of defends it. But the control factor of it, he wins the round, right? But it was just surprising. I mean, you're thinking, well, he did avoid the takedowns. The time he got taken down was because he made a bad move, right, in the first round. But he was able to take Usman down, right? So you kind of like, oh man, that's crazy. Like the confidence builder for Edwards. Then Usman really starts upping his game. He just kind of ups the pressure. Now, I don't think Usman, to me, was like the greatest technical striker in this fight. I don't think it really was that. I think he just kind of bit down and said, I'm going to get in his range. I'm going to make him uncomfortable. I don't think Edwards likes to fight like this. I think Edwards will wilt to this pressure. And I really believe that's what would happen. He started putting it on him. He started putting the body work, started really upping his offense and making Edwards really defend, really move, really react. And then he started just takedown after takedown attempt, and then finally just started getting him down on the ground. And then you kind of just rinse repeat from that point on. Now, Edwards would have moments where, you land something or stop a takedown and work his way back up. And little glimpses, but he didn't ever look like he was building anything to win the fight. And it looked like he was in his corner, like he really was checked out. It kind of seemed like he seemed kind of defeat in him. And I see a lot of people being critical of Joe Rogan, and I'm trying to think who was giving the I can't think of his name right now, but the guy that giving like the strategy, who was just saying like Edwards is probably just willing to take this one decision, and they were 100% right. I'm sorry to say, maybe something happened that they weren't expecting, right? And then he did get the stoppage, but they were right. He was done. He was not looking to win this fight. He didn't think in his mind he could win this fight. He was checked out. He was willing to take this fight's decision. And that everything that his body, his demeanor, his output, the way he fought, everything said that he did not think it was possible to win this fight. Now, the one thing I did notice was, even when Usman was landing and everything like that, Edwards was never panicked to me. I thought he was very calm. He was taking shots and stuff, but he never he never at least had that point where it just like completely fell apart, right? It didn't have never the point where it was just like, okay, he's gonna stop because of just the pressure's too much and mentally, and he's gonna physically quit in there. He's gonna physically just stop and drop, and the punches were gonna start meeting more. He never had that. He kind of stood calm. He just didn't have the energy to really defend the takedowns. It's really what it was. He just didn't have the energy and the strength to to match what Usman was bringing as far as Usman's offense. He couldn't match it defensively. He just couldn't. A lot of times Edwards would put himself against the fence too. Like it was just things that mentally where he was just checking out in the fight. He was just accepting positions. And with a turn of events that happened in the last round that to me led to him being getting a little more energy, a little bounce and step. So you get the last round, it's a rinse and repeat, right? And Edwards still just kind of staring, still getting put against the fence. And there's a point where 2 minutes, like 2 minutes and 40 seconds left. Usman has him against the fence. Usman at that point has him like it's kind of going like his upper body. He's at his upper body. Herb Dean says, "Show me something," right? He drops levels and goes for his legs, right? Edwards doing a good job of defending it, but it doesn't look like Edwards is doing anything to get out of this position. I don't think he has the energy to get out of this position. You've seen this from all the previous rounds that Edwards was kind of accepting this position and wasn't going to be able to break loose from Usman and be able to get distance and create offense, right? Just after all the examples you've seen all the rounds and where he was at, and just kind of accepting that he was going to fight Usman not to go to the ground, but he didn't have anything to get Usman off of him. Now, you're going to need to go back to a previous fight for the example that I'm making. Aldo versus Davishvili in the second round. Davishvili has Aldo against the cage for a majority of the round. Majority of the round, he just holds him against the cage, right? Now, in that round, and I'll talk about that fight later, but I thought Aldo was doing good work when they were standing up. But the control, I knew that they were going to score. I had a feeling they were going to score the round for Davishvili because it's just the control as he had him against the fence. And they allowed him to hold that control for most of the round. Now, in this fight, Herb Dean, he's kind of allowing a lot of stuff, and he isn't like there's a lot of cage holding that Usman has. Usman even holds the gloves at one point, but the control factor, he had never broken them up for you're holding too long, or you're not doing anything on the ground. He's let it play out the fight the way it probably should be. And at this point, right, you're in the last round, 2 minutes left. Everybody's, expecting Usman to win. Usman's been dominating the whole time. Usman holds him against the fence. It doesn't look like Edwards is going to be able to get out of it. And Herb Dean breaks them up. Now, to me, if you look at the Aldo Davishvili fight, which was where it was allowed, this is the lack of consistency as far as even the way they score fights, right? As far as like whether control is effective or damage is effective. But it's a lack of consistency around the sport on what is allowed and what they're going to be looking to do and what they'll break up and what they'll allow to happen. I think Herb Dean broke this up because it was the last round and it was coming to the end of the round and people were getting restless. I really think that. I think that had a major factor of what point of the fight this was. And I think that this was the second round, third round, first round. He doesn't break that up. He lets that play out. But because last round and crowd's getting a little restless, he breaks that up. He creates makes him go back to the center of the cage. Now, that breakup right there, I think for some reason, right? And I think because maybe Edwards didn't think he was going to get out of that position. Edwards thought that maybe that was just going to ride out to the end of the fight. For some reason, it gets just a little bit of energy in Edwards, right? Then Edwards throws a body kick, and it kind of, hits Usman kind of like a low blow, right? But it's very, very questionable whether it was a low blow. It was very borderline. Now, Usman says complains, it takes a break. Now, this allows, first of all, Edwards a rest, but not only that, but now he feels like, okay, Usman felt something. Whether it was a low blow or something, he felt something. I hit him. He felt pain. I'm feeling a little bit of success there. Just a little bit more energy, right? Just a little bit more energy. And then suddenly, right, Usman, who is in the lead, is dominating the fight, just has to play safe, really, is in a point where he's standing in the same range, staring for a period of time. Like he's just staying in the range, exact same range, not moving backwards, not moving forward, just standing there, staying in the same range, staring. And now Leon Edwards has a little pep in his step. A few things that happened to where mentally it just favored Leon Edwards, and he got mentally in a spot that he felt a little bit better about himself. And then you just see the looseness, and Leon Edwards throws a little nothing jab. Usman moves, And the thing that bothered me was what Teddy Atlas said. It was actually the boxing that Usman working on that got him in trouble here. That's not the case. Okay. Usman moves, reacts to the punch with his right hand. So not even his lead hand. He reacts with his right hand, pushes the right hand out in front of him, leans over his hips, and has his head wide open. Even in boxing, you're getting in trouble for that. And Leon Edwards times him, throws a head kick right nice and loose, hits Usman dead on, and Usman's asleep. Now, if Urban never breaks that up, I don't know if Edwards ever gets out of that position. Usman rides out to a decision victory, but he did break it up. I think it was because of the last round, and all these chain of events happen with low blow, with the way that Usman reacts, with the fact that it might even be a questionable low blow. And I don't know if they show the replay and Edwards sees it, but all these things affect Edwards mentally to give him just a little bit more energy, a little more juice. He sees where the fight's at with 1 minute left. So now he has nothing to preserve, right? He could just explode. Even if he gets taken down, there's not enough time to really take any damage or maybe even get stopped at that point. All these mentally things benefited Edwards. And now he's loose, he's bouncing, and he sets up a shot that catches Usman that ends the fight. It's all these chain of events like that could turn a fight around. I didn't put the highlight up. I gotta put it up. All those chain of events led to Edwards being in position to land that shot. And Usman it's not the same as, it's all Urban breaking up, but also Usman staying in the same range is insane when you're up like that. It's either you're moving back or coming forward and putting pressure on Edwards again. But the fact to stay in the one spot that Edwards needs you is one of the most, one of the hugest mistakes you can possibly make. Now, if it seems like they're gonna do it a third time, and just know when you're looking at this fight, you're gonna say, "Oh, well, Usman was dominating, right?" And he gets head kicked, but if he doesn't get head kicked, he dominated the whole fight. Edwards had nothing for him. He couldn't stop the takedown eventually over time. And Usman's going to go back and do that. And he's going to go pressure him, break him. You don't know what Usman's going to look like in that third fight. Usman just got head kicked and put to sleep. We don't know what damage it's going to do. You don't know what he's going to look like in a fighter that was already getting older, a fighter that was already kind of looking for a way out, already taking acting opportunities, right? Already talking Canelo, all these things. You don't know what that fighter's going to look like in that fight. Sorry, you don't. So you cannot say to me, "Oh, for sure, he's going to beat Edwards in the next fight." I don't know what I'm going to get of Usman. Now, picking him, that is no problem. But most likely, you're not getting the same Usman in that next Edwards fight. I'm sorry. I don't think you are. Just with age, being knocked out like that, I don't think you get the same Edwards. I don't think you get the same Usman in that fight. And I think Edwards is still going to be the same level he's at and with a little more confidence. I think that's a very interesting fight. I think it's going to be a very competitive fight. I think it's going to be a very back and forth fight, if I'm being honest. And I wouldn't be surprised if Edwards pulls it out again. And that's how we could change someone's career, someone's legacy, or a chain of events like that can change a whole thing. But it all starts from Herb Dean breaking up the clinch against the fence. Let's go to the co-main event. Costa versus Rockhold. It's 2 weeks in a row. You have a fight with that shows very low cage IQ. Because that's what this fight was. It was very low cage IQ. It was a mess. Highly entertaining, though. It leads to a very entertaining fight. But we had the fight last week, the same thing. This week, it's kind of running rampant right now in the UFC. The cage IQ, you should just notice things happening, simple stuff that could be avoided, and you're just seeing just more recklessness. And that's what I kind of saw in this fight. And it kind of looked like, for sure, Rockhold, first of all, didn't have the cardio to keep up this pace. Definitely was fighting on one leg. And Costa was was dealing with all of it, just basically getting hit with all the stuff in there, just in tough. He was just in there tough with Rockhold. There was really not a lot of Rockhold left. Costa is not, to me, a legit contender for the title. I think we found that out when he fought Izzy. He's going to be in some fun fights if they match him up correctly. But he should not have had, to me, this tough of a fight with Rockhold. And I think that I thought he fought the wrong strategy. I thought he was too respectful to Rockhold. I thought he really had to crank it up on Rockhold. And I thought that allowing Rockhold to to get off the way he did, and really he should have just applied his game to him. It just led to a really fun fight, like I said, but it was a really sloppy fight, and it was a really messy fight. And I understand that these are entertaining, but at some point, watching something at a high level, you kind of want to see it at a high level. I didn't think I was seeing something at really high level in this fight. To be honest with you, and I thought that Jake Paul's criticism of it was fair. Now, like I said, I'm not against fun fights. I'm just not against that. But to a point, right? I'm not, to a point where you have two guys, and these guys are considered, top of the game. I'm last week I saw a guy that was in he was in a half mount, a side mount, and he just stood up just to entertain the crowd, right? In a fight that was very competitive, in a fight that he was not clearly going to win, a fight that he could have easily almost gets knocked out after that position. And then I see this fight, and I'm just like, this is just all over the place. It's entertaining, but at a certain point, I'm just like, it kind of diminishes the product a little bit. Maybe I'm being, the negative one on this, and everybody else is kind of like, I love what I saw and all that. And I'm sure you do, but to me, if I'm looking at a tactical fight, and I want to see the best versus the best, and I want to see two guys that are supposedly at the top of the weight division and going to be contending for the title. You know what I mean? I want to see more than what I saw. I want to see, and I don't really think it's Luke Rockhold's fault. I think Luke Rockhold, well, first of all, he hadn't fought in a long time. I think that, some of the takedowns and stuff like that are very sloppy, but I think it was more on Costa. I think Rockhold doesn't have really anything left, so he brought what he had, to try to pull some tricks out, but didn't really have it. We'll see where they go forward. I said Costa's going to be in some good fights. Rockhold retired. I think that was the right decision. It was a proper send off. I thought he was the MVP of the week as far as the interviews, as far as this fight, his entertainment value. We'll see Costa going forward. He's probably going to, me, I don't think see a lot of success for Costa going forward. I'll be honest with you. Next fight we're going to talk about is Aldo versus Davishvili. I already kind of talked about this fight. I thought the first round, Aldo kind of came out in more of like a Muay Thai stance. Now, I've always said that, to me, Aldo is one of the best boxers in UFC. I thought maybe that stance was a little bit of a mistake. I thought it kind of like took away from his punches, but I still thought he won the first round. Definitely the cleaner strikes, more effective strikes. Davishvili was definitely looking takedowns in that round. Couldn't get any. You go to the second round, Davishvili gets him against the fences, as I was talking earlier, kind of holds him there. When they get free, though, to me, it's clear to me that Aldo's landing the more effective work. Now, he spends most of the round against the cage, but Davishvili doesn't do anything against the cage. He just holds him there. Now, there's that whole debate whether position or damage, right? What are you grading more? I'm always grading damage more. I think damage more important, but that's maybe we gotta look into the rules, but certain places, it's we've been seeing the damage has definitely been scored over, and then certain places you see the damages. Control is still scored over everything. In this fight, control was scored over everything. I don't like that. I don't agree with that. I don't think that is entertaining, or it doesn't encourage an actual fight to break out. And I think that if you get someone in a position, you should be able to for it to be an effective position, you should be able to get damage done. If a guy that's a kickboxer or a boxer keeps the fight standing up, but he's able to land damage, he'll get points for that. Just for keeping the fight standing up, he doesn't get points for that. But a wrestler, if he gets a hold of you and grapples with you, even though he's not landing any damage or doing anything effective with it, he'll get points for that. That never makes sense. That never made sense to me ever. So you go into the third round, definitely Davishvili round. Aldo is gassed beyond belief. I was very surprised at how gassed he was. Like I said, he's getting older, so that makes sense. It's probably a very extreme cut for him. He was gassed. He didn't have anything in the tank, and he was trying to use his legs to get around Davishvili. It was definitely a Davishvili round. I had felt Aldo had did enough to win it. I thought he won rounds of the first round and the second round. Like I said, some places use control. Some people consider damage. Maybe there's, maybe I'm not looking at the correct information. It just goes by commission, I'm sure, on which one. And if I would have, did that research and said which one, how do they score in these fights? But I had a feeling, like I said, I had a feeling that they were going to use the control. And like I said, Davishvili had 5 minutes and 6 seconds of control. That's a been an effective way to win scorecards in MMA. I thought Aldo did enough, but they gave Dashvili because of control. Um, I wasn't really impressed with his performance. To me, I mean, most of the times when Aldo fights now, I just think of like what he would do if he was younger to these guys. It would be very brutal, right? It wouldn't even be close. These guys could not even come close to Aldo in his prime. But the older Aldo, it's fun to watch. You know what I mean? It's just fun to see if he could pull these things off. But I think I think that there's really he's an all right fighter. He's a good fighter, but I just don't see him contending for the title or anything like that. I just think that he's too wild with his strikes. His takedowns are okay. It's a lot of strength and explosion, but maybe not the best technique. Yeah, it was to me it was a good card and just a great ending. Entertaining, like I said, Rock Cold entertaining. Although always watching him is fun and seeing if he can, pull enough tricks to win the fight. But the Usman Edwards fight was kind of what I expect is kind of just like the second fight, just longer, right? Because the second fight, the first fight was a 3-rounder, and this is a 5-rounder, and Edwards just lands that massive head kick. It was like kind of like to me like an average movie with a great ending. That's kind of what this was. It was an average fight with a great ending. Usman was putting a great performance on with just his energy and work rate, and Edwards, like I said, just enough chain of events happened to get him the energy and the confidence to land that head kick. Thank you guys for listening.